okay, we can put in a jump. We can jump over a thing. Oh, we can make the thing go faster momentarily. And we can put in some explosions. And then we can barely make it at the end. Sounds good. Put all that in there. Alright, that should be good enough. Wait, better put something on top just in case. Welcome to Star Trek Prodigy episode 14, Crossroads. Last review I said we were on a roll with these new Prodigy episodes, and I think I was correct, because this episode is another banger. I would say for most people. For me, it's missing some core components, but it, in my opinion, more than makes up for it in other ways. Who are we crossing roads with? Probably Janeway. You would imagine with a title like Crossroads, this would be the episode where the two halves of our plot connect. When is the crew of the Protostar going to meet with the crew of the Dauntless? Villains and heroes, butting of heads, although it's only a misunderstanding. This is Crossroads, episode 14. Let's get right down into it. Let's get into the nitty-gritty. Let's bury ourselves into this plot, much like the Protostar was buried in this episode. The Protostar was buried twice now. At the beginning of this episode, they bury it to hide it in the snow. Admittedly, this doesn't look like a very good hiding job. We'll leave it at that. But it was also buried inside Tars Lamora, the slave colony, in the rock. Remember? Right at the beginning. That's why they needed these miners to dig it up, because it was hard to detect. So maybe there is some kind of built-in, ambient field around it that makes it hard to detect. Maybe the Protostar is uniquely cloaked in a way that does not resemble like the standard cloak as you would imagine it, like on behalf of Romulans. Maybe that's why they could get away with hiding it so close to where their destination was. We'll get into that in a minute. But what I'm pointing out here is that the Protostar was buried twice. Just an interesting little fact I noticed. This episode calls back to the grand arc of Prodigy in a lot of interesting ways that could be accidental, but I found compelling and enlightening. For one, our issues with the real Janeway stem from a lack of communication, right? The inability to speak. The slaves on Tars Lamora were kept down from their lack of ability to speak with each other. If you remember at the beginning of Prodigy, our characters all had different languages, no universal translator. The Protostar gave them the gift of communication. They dug it out of the ground. Now they buried it back in the ground and have lost the gift of communication again, because they can no longer communicate with Starfleet in any meaningful way because of the living construct embedded in the Protostar. Makes you think. Really gets the noggin jogging. So what's going on in Crossroads? Well, we're opening up with a captain's log. Just getting it up to speed. The living construct, this weapon, is basically baked into the cake now of the Protostar. We can't get it out. We're giving up trying to get rid of it. We're just going to hide the Protostar, and we're going to try to get safe transport to the Federation, and we're just going to wing it from there, baby. I mean, we know where it is. We can go back and get it. If Chakotay is alive, would he still think he left it in Tars Lamora? I'm very curious to find out the whole story here, because there's some things that don't add up. I won't really get into it, but I'm looking forward to see Season 1 of Prodigy resolve itself. If it nails that landing, this is going to be a stellar season of Star Trek. Regardless, we go to a far-flung outpost, a den of thieves, people who don't want to be noticed, and people who just want to get the heck out of here. Sounds like our kind of spot. Now, this place, originally I thought, wow, isn't it convenient that Baroness Frex's escape pod landed here? The Prodigy crew on the Protostar landed the Protostar here to hide it, and Janeway ended up there too. It's not that convenient. Barring any unwitnessed proto-jumps, it would seem that this area of space contains within it this world, this trading shipping outpost place, and that station from the episode Asylum, and the Dauntless, because the Dauntless was already looking for the Protostar, right? So if the station is destroyed that had Baroness Frex on it, the nearest place would be this world. I mean, right? It's a safe place with transport off that world where you can contact the Federation. Of course he's going to end up there. Of course our crew is going to end up there because it hasn't gone that far, right? Barring unwitnessed proto-jumps. And the Dauntless is going to be there anyway to look for Baroness Frex. So it's actually a crossroads in space and of characters. You see? It's a physical crossroad, and it's a crossroad for the plot. So it's actually a good name. We bury the Protostar under some snow. I wish I could get a little bit more detail on how this was done. It seems a little fishy to me that we could just lay the Protostar down in a hole, hit some snow with a phaser, cause an avalanche, and then just bury it and no one would notice. But I did say originally, I prefaced this by saying that maybe the Protostar is suspiciously hard to detect for some reason because we couldn't find it on Tars Lamora. Save for when Dal and I think Rok-tahk accidentally discovered it. Imagine that, right? So we put on our excursion gear and we walked to this outpost in a blizzard, ambiguously far away. Distances are important in Star Trek. Maybe should have been a little bit more specific. But this episode was packed with content that was compelling already. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they shouldn't have been more verbose in how they explained how they did this. Maybe this episode is exactly as verbose as it needed to be. However, I had some original ideas of my own for how to better resolve the issues of this plot. And we'll see that when we get there. We get to this outpost. Zero, Dal, Gwyn, Murph, Rok-tahk, Jankum. The whole gang's all here. The whole squad's here, guys. Murph, by the way, is in a molting period or something. Murph has recoiled into a shell and is about to become a new Murph, a metamorphosis, if you will. Uh-oh, who else is there? The crew of the Dauntless. Vice Admiral Janeway, Tyces, Essentia, and Noom. What a cool crew. It's like I already know everything about these characters the first time I met them. You know? They exude a professional personality, and they exude a rapport with each other that is commensurate with what you'd expect from Starfleet. Very well done. Janeway didn't miss a beat. There's some scenes with Janeway looking into the camera gave me chills because I thought we were just back in Voyager all of a sudden. It just hit all the right notes emotionally and visually and musically, I might add. Jankum meets Dr. Newham, who was a Tellarite, and Jankum Pog gets busted down a bit, you know. Jankum Pog had recently discovered, in his youthful vigor, that he was part of a founding race of the Federation. So he thinks he's royalty. It's not serious. Ha ha ha, it's a joke, right? He's only little Jankum. He gets put in his place here, meeting an adult Tellarite from the Federation. Pog is a name we reserve for runts. Oh, you're little in stature and vocabulary. Ha ha ha. The human way to interpret that interaction between Dr. Newham and Tellarite will be that Newham is just outwardly insulting him for no reason. That would be the human response, but if we think harder, Tellarites see that as a form of like endearment. It wasn't an insult. And you can see that Jank and Pog is largely unfazed. But this episode, had it been an hour long, we could have maybe resolved that, fixed the issue with communication somehow, and have them come to terms with each other, like in a, not with an apology, but in like a Tellarite family way. I think it really would have gave this episode something, because this episode could have been about Jank and Pog's discovery of another Tellarite and the fact that he's not alone, which I think is a journey all our characters are going to go on soon. They're going to find others like them, and they're going to find where their home is, right? So Jankum has discovered a little piece of home. We should have dwelled on that a little more, but we didn't. As a result, emotionally and thematically, there was nothing at the heart of this episode. I preface this review by saying that for me, it's missing some things. That's one of the things that's missing. It's missing the emotional core. Should have been between Jankum and Newham. We didn't have time or plot intricacies made it impossible, but still, that should have been the core of the episode. It wasn't. Instead, I really just ended up with nothing. Not much to chew on here, but it's still a fantastic episode, and you'll see why. It effortlessly weaves together our characters from disparate factions, if you will, into a plot that does not feel forced in any way. It feels like it plays out in a semi-logical way with tasty morsels of action, as bog standard as they are, and delivers what ends up being a delightful visual feast of Star Trek elements. Okay, Zero would have been really good in this episode. Zero, mind you, is a mind reader. You'd think if we're going to an outpost to ask for transportation, Zero would be a fantastic tool here. How about Zero does some mind reading to figure out who is worth their salt? You know, if Zero can read minds, can Zero also implant thoughts? Is that something Zero can do? I don't know. But it's something I thought of, and I was thinking, our problem is communication, overarching. We can't communicate with Janeway and co., that being Admiral Janeway. How do we then use Zero to read their minds to get a leg up on them? Because we know that our characters are innocent. They don't know that. And they know that they're innocent in their pursuit of the Protostar crew. From their point of view, and from the point of view of Baroness Frex, they met up at this outpost. Oh, I was attacked by savages. They used some kind of new technology to destroy my station. They were dressed up as Starfleet. Wow. I guess I have to take you at face value. Although they do throw some shade at him. Not very much of a Starfleet officer, wink wink. He wasn't answering his comm badge. At the end of the episode Asylum, if you remember in my review, I gave him the benefit of the doubt. I said he was very nice at the beginning, was very welcoming. He was the picture of the Federation. But then his station is destroyed, and then he just leaves without anybody in his escape pod. Sorry, no room for saboteurs, I think he said. I thought that was a little mean, but then I thought about the whole situation, and I was willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. And it's sad to see Janeway and co. not giving him the benefit of the doubt. He's just been through a lot, okay? Maybe we can cut him a little slack. I'd like to see Baroness Frex come to terms with the Protostar crew. I think there's definitely something to tie up there. Every one of her characters ends up meeting somebody from Starfleet. Gwyn meets Essentia. Dal meets Janeway. But not one of them can actually get the ball in the net here. They all fumble the ball. Something goes wrong and they can't get it out that they're trying to get back to the Federation and that the Protostar is now a weapon and it's not our fault that the station was destroyed. We're all trying to say that but can't say it because we are either A, starstruck on behalf of Dal, or B, caught in a Tellarite argumentative anger loop between Dr. Newham and Jank and Pog. It's all very amusing, but it's not very amusing for our characters because now we're on the run. Baroness Frex has revealed to them that, holy crap, Dal had a little dingle dangle on his head. I just saw that guy here. They're here. So it begins. The cat and mouse game. We cannot communicate via protostar systems to the Dauntless. Our one moment to do this was when we were on this planet, and now that's gone. We escaped this outpost on an anti-gravity land ship. That's always fun to see. At least it doesn't have wheels. We escape with Okana. Okana has stowed away on our stolen ship. That being the land cruiser thingy. It's Outrageous Okana back again from my favorite TNG episode, the Outrageous Okana, if I might say. I mean, it just kind of turns into a Star Wars movie here. If you know Star Wars, I don't. I've seen some pictures of Star Wars, and this kind of looked visually a little bit like Star Wars. We're getting away on a land cruiser, anti-grav as it is, with pirate with a quote-unquote heart of gold. Where are we going? We're going back to the protostar. We jump over a cliff. We put in some nitro. Like I said, it's bog standard. It's like, I need to make this episode exciting. Well, get out the Rolodex. Okay, we can put in a jump. We can jump over a thing. Oh, we can make the thing go faster momentarily. And we can put in some explosions. And then we can barely make it at the end. Sounds good. Put all that in there. It doesn't hurt the episode, but in my opinion, it doesn't really help it. So it's just kind of, whatever. Kids might really think it's cool, but for me, I would have taken an on-foot chase through the blizzard, cleverly hiding in snow dunes, or is it a drift? A snowdrift is just a sand dune, but with snow. I just put that together in my mind. Is there a sand drift or a snow dune? Anyway, we go back to the protostar. I thought you guys were taking me to a starship. Don't worry, we're on top of it. And then the protostar rises out of the very fast freezing ice and snow. In my time, I've seen water, become ice almost instantaneously. This is a thing that can happen, but this seemed a little bit convenient. I don't know, it just kind of looks like they put some snow on it. It seems like if I tried to walk on it, it would be a little bit awkward to stand on top of the odd-shaped protostar covered loosely with snow. I don't know. More detail required, I guess. But like I said, is this episode verbose enough already? We're back on the protostar. We didn't leave long. Hologram Janeway is saying, wow, how did it go? How did your adventure go? Oh, it didn't even start. Here's Hologram Janeway thinking she'd be shut off for years, which would feel like a nanosecond to her, I guess. I think is quoting her. But we're back on immediately, and we just need to get the heck out of here. Our plans have failed, guys. Baroness Frex got to Admiral Janeway first. Admiral Janeway therefore thinks we're thieves who may have even killed Chakotay. And she thinks that we voluntarily destroyed that space station. And we have the Diviner in tow on the Dauntless, who's slowly coming to at the speed of a frozen snail dipped in molasses on Pluto. Maybe given to his unique physiology, he's able to overcome the Medusan mind spell. I will allow that. But he knows that he's looking for Gwendala. He knows that he knows about the protostar. So I think maybe it's possible that the Diviner has actually gotten over the Medusan mind trick, or injury, if you will, sooner than we realize, and he's hiding it now. Did anybody consider this? That he's actually putting on a show? I came up with that in my mind while I was watching this, and I was like, wow, that would be pretty cool. Because what can go wrong right now for the diviner? What could go wrong is that he accidentally recovers fully and doesn't realize that he blurted out that he stole the protostar. Or, like, listen, Starfleet is crafty, and the Dauntless, no doubt, is full of some of the craftiest officers in the Federation. They would be able to tell that he's lying, right? So maybe he's just trying really hard to act dumb, right? Or act confused. Or he really is still gone mentally. Like, which one do you think it is, right? How devious do you think the diviner really is? Do you think he's willing to make all this up and continue this fake injury so that he doesn't get caught, on the Dauntless? He's already on the Dauntless. He's essentially caught already. All that has to happen is he needs to slip up or say the wrong thing, and they'll know the truth, and they'll find a way to disable the protostar's weapon. If they know it's there, they'll figure it out. Like, who else in the universe could figure this out, right? How to disable this weapon? Like the Romulans, maybe. Federation, probably. Like something like that. Could maybe figure it out. But as it stands right now, we could not get away from the Dauntless. There was nothing we could do. However, I had a few ideas. Okay, how do you communicate with the Dauntless without using the communications technology on the protostar? Well, one thing you could do is you could try to fly really close to the Dauntless and just see if Zero's mind reading could go that far through the hull of the ship and into the Dauntless. Maybe there was a way to do that, to glean some kind of information about how to better approach the crew of the Dauntless and Admiral Janeway. That's something you could do. Another thing you could do is you could launch torpedoes away from the Dauntless, but do it in binary, and maybe get their attention by shooting out torpedoes in prime numbers, and then see if the Dauntless responds with the next prime number in torpedo shots, and then try to use binary after that. Maybe there's a way. Binary converted into torpedo, wait, torpedo, wait, torpedo, wait, torpedo, wait, torpedo. Like something like that. There's physical ways to communicate. Another very dangerous thing to do, which is an idea I had. It's totally insane. But, well, okay, like Zero doesn't need a spacesuit, do they? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Zero can survive in space. Could you launch Zero out of an airlock towards the Dauntless? Like, what's the Dauntless going to do? They're not going to kill one of the passengers. They want to capture them. So just shoot Zero at the Dauntless. And they're going to tractor beam Zero into the Dauntless. They're not going to shoot, I don't think. Although Zero kind of looks like a bomb. It's just one of those crazy ideas. Maybe Zero could go onto the ship and then explain it to them, right? Take the comm badge off, of course. Maybe that's something. And Zero is uniquely gifted with mind-reading talents, so maybe you could massage their brain a bit to get them, amenable to the idea that we're not who you think we are. We did not steal the protostar. Well, we did steal the protostar, but we weren't the ones who originally stole it. And no, we didn't try to blow up that station. Okay, it was an accident. It's an accident. We're good. Is that one way they're going to solve this? I don't know. Anyway, the Dauntless targets the protostar's third nacelle and takes them out of warp. Before they could go to proto-warp. By the way, it was mentioned in the script of this episode that the Dauntless has quantum slipstream drive. Were we at quantum slipstream here in this episode when we went immediately to 9.97 warp? Is that why warp looks different in this? Was it actually quantum slipstream drive the whole time? Did anyone elucidate this at all? Does anybody know? Was the warp in this show quantum slipstream the whole time? I don't know. But the Dauntless does have quantum slipstream drive, which is a thing in Star Trek. The Protostar is dead in space. Where are they going to go? Okana suggests the neutral zone. We'll modulate her shield. I'm so tired of hearing excuses for how you can break through the neutral zone or how you can break cloak. Oh, we'll just modulate our shield so they won't think we're who we are and we'll just fly through and we'll be okay. No. You won't be okay. You will immediately be caught if you do that in the neutral zone. But they just do it anyway. I mean, why not? If you think about it logically, you cannot let the Protostar be captured by the Dauntless, right? We're risking almost anything because you just know, or at least you take it for granted, that the living construct is going to destroy the Federation. Therefore, you are kind of admitted into the neutral zone in a crazy way, right? However, disagreement is stewing amongst the crew of the Dauntless. We have disagreements over what to do. If we go to the neutral zone, we'll start a war. If we don't, and let the Protostar keep going, the Romulans may get a hold of, number one, the proto-drive, and number two, the living construct. Imagine what could happen if the Romulan Empire got those two things. So, both the Dauntless and the Protostar have wagered that it was actually better just to continue into the neutral zone the way they were going. Of course, you've immediately summoned 3 D'Deridex type Romulan ships. You know, the huge warbird. Yeah. You've escalated the stakes now. Wow, this thing went from 0 to 11 in like 5 seconds, didn't it? Yeah. And if that's not enough, Murph has hatched. Our episode ends with our ominous warning from the Romulan Empire. But we also had the fabulous, cutastic, fun warning from Murph when Murph hatched into the coolest little creature I've ever seen. I just... Murph was revealed just slowly backing away from the corner of the panel, poking its head out, and then walked around, just sashaying around on the bridge really hilariously. It's the cutest thing I've ever seen in my life. And then it just sits on the control panel and accidentally launches a torpedo. Okay, you're off the bridge from now on, cute guy. Again, we know how to hit the tension. We know how to hit the cuteness. This show's got it all, except for the theme. What was this episode about? You know, really at the end of the day, can you write a sentence that explains the overarching theory behind this episode? What was it about? Nothing really, but it was so dense on the plot, so dense on the visuals and the music, that it was awesome anyway. And the plot largely made sense, apart from a few things which I had mentioned with regards to a better way to resolve our issue, you know, with communication, that is. Largely an A-plot, as this is the crossroads. The A-plot of Prodigy itself and the B-plot of all of Prodigy have now morphed together. So it makes sense that an episode called Crossroads would just be kind of A-plot, if you know what I mean. The only B-plot maybe in the background would be something to do with Murph. For a brief moment, I thought that when Murph hatched, Murph was going to solve this problem. Did anyone else think that? Like, just the timing for when Murph hatched. We were in our tensest moment versus the Dauntless. I was thinking for a second, maybe Murph, when it hatched, had some kind of innate ability that would allow it to communicate with the Dauntless. Like maybe Murph would instantaneously transport of its own accord to the Dauntless or something. I don't know. It could have been anything. But I was thinking, oh wow, Murph just hatched. What's Murph going to do to solve the plot? Could just be being genre savvy, having seen a lot of things in my life, and when things drop at the last moment, that's going to wrap it up. But nothing really happened, and I felt stupid that I thought it would. I felt dumb that I thought Murph was going to save the day. Maybe Murph will next episode, but were you thinking something along those lines, maybe? That's Crossroads. Thematically, it's a no-no. Plot-wise, you can't skip it. It's too dense. There's too much going on. The moment-to-moment scenes are fantastic. So the plot, mechanically, is excellent. Musically, it's amazing. Dal meets Janeway. It's such a beautiful scene. Did you ever want something so bad that you couldn't even say it because you were afraid of messing it up? You want to join Starfleet. I want to join Starfleet, but there are no buts. In Starfleet, we make it so. But it's kind of a big but. See how I can recite that scene in my mind without even thinking about it? Because it has impact, it has soul. And it was playing the Voyager theme when that happened. And then when we're escaping the outpost, it plays this fantastic, thumping, tense version of the Prodigy motif. It's so good. Musically, we're winning. Visually, how can you complain about seeing Klingons, Okana, a cool, atmospheric blizzard on an alien outpost, the Deredex on behalf of the Romulans, and two ships chasing each other at warp? How can you... Visually, you can't really squeeze in a complaint here, but I think the only thing you can maybe see is maybe the walking looks a little strange. I saw Essentia walking around, and it just didn't quite look like she was ambulating properly, if you catch my drift. She looked a little bit like a robot. That's basically visually all I can really say. Other than that, it's a real stone cold stunner. So at the end of the day, what kind of score is this episode getting? This episode is getting a 6. It's a keeper. Not as good as All the World's a Stage. If we had hit on the themes here, this could have been a 7. But as it stands right now, we're getting a 6. If you know my review scale, that's actually a pretty good score. I haven't succumbed to the modern era review score inflation, where people think 10 is perfect, 9 is good, 8 is good enough, 7 is terrible, don't watch it, and then everything 6 and below is forget it. I don't subscribe to that idea. In my view, 5 is the finish line. 5 means you have something that gets from A to B to C in a logical way, and that's it. And you don't feel good after watching it or bad. That's what a 5 is. So a 6 means we got to the finish line. I feel good, I'm happy, and it still had room to improve. That was Crossroads. So you should definitely go check it out. Is the next episode going to be even better? Are we going to hit an 8 in Prodigy at some point? Some of these episodes were straddling the line of 8, but I don't think we've hit it yet. Or maybe I'm lying to myself and I actually did give something an 8. I don't exactly go back and watch my own reviews. I hope you do, and I hope you comment on this video. And that was Star Trek Prodigy, episode 14, Crossroads. I hope you liked it. I'm Lieutenant Mark, and I'm about to get the hell out of here. I'll see you when next I see you.